Don't make the mistake of thinking that whipping together a few social media posts is enough to drive traffic to your funnels. In today's video, we're talking about how to run a successful social media marketing campaign. First, I'm going to tell you the process of how we create a successful social media campaign calendar that perfectly leads into a launch. Then we'll talk about the 3 questions to ask yourself when you're preparing your campaign strategy. Then I'll tell you the story about my Content Machine live event and how we reverse engineered the outcome to create an incredibly successful result. We made over $100,000 in a single day. When I'm creating a marketing calendar, I'll work from the launch date and work backwards. It's like you're reverse engineering the outcome. If you have a calendar in front of you where you actually have the day that you're launching, what that open cart period looks like, and what kind of hype and pre-launch you need to create to build that hype, that's the best way to plan out each day leading towards the outcome. Now let's talk about that. What does that mean? What does it mean to reverse engineer the outcome? Well, first we need to determine, what does the outcome look like? What does success look like? What are your goals? What kind of ROI are you expecting? If you can determine this, you can plan the campaign to reach those goals. I break up my marketing calendar into the following phases. You have your pre-launch. That's where you're building this hype. You're building this pressure towards an announcement. You're building this hype so that when you make the announcement, people are already so excited because they've been on the edge of their seat wondering, what is happening? What are they about to do? Then the announcement kicks off the launch phase. This is where maybe the cart is open, or you're getting people to enroll, you're getting them to register for something, and you're building the hype that's leading towards a sale. Now, the exciting thing about the launch period is it gets more exciting as you count down to the final close cart day. That's where things get really intense. And as a disclaimer, you should tell your team, your family, to expect things to be hectic around the end of that close cart period. That's usually when you're creating the most social media posts, you're sending out the most emails, and you have that last rush. Now, it's also really important throughout this whole period to keep track of your metrics and always be testing and receiving the feedback from your audience. Even though you might have created this content ahead of time, you might notice that your audience is really responding well to one piece of content that then maybe you can pivot in your strategy to double down on. Now, let's talk about the 3 questions that you need to ask yourself while creating this campaign. The first one is, what platforms will you be promoting on, and what will your content look like? Are you going to be making videos? Are you going to be making ads? Are you going to put up text posts? Are you going to make some countdown images? Whatever you do, make sure that it aligns with your brand and that it's consistently aligning with the messaging and the hype that you're hoping to build. I want to know from you, if you're going to build out a social media campaign, what platforms would you focus on? What are the ones that work best for you and reaching your audience? Let me know in the comments below. The next one is, what stories are you going to incorporate into your campaign? Now, you might be thinking, stories? Why would I be sharing stories? Listen, the stories are what creates the emotional connection with your audience. I can tell you from my own personal experience, the people that I buy from, the products, the courses, the event tickets that I buy, are because I feel an emotional connection with the person or the company that is selling it. If someone was selling me, let's say, a coaching program, and all they're giving me is the cold hard facts of this is what you're gonna get, I don't care about that so much as the story that is actually touching on my pain points or my experiences. I bought a high ticket, it was a pretty expensive coaching program from someone recently, because I watched her videos where she led me on an emotional journey telling me about the struggles she went through in her business when she was really struggling to sell her products and services. But then, boom, she had this huge aha moment. She created a strategy, and this strategy has now led her to make multiple 7 figures. And because I felt like I've been exactly where she's been, and this strategy that she's talking about sounds like it's the answer to all of my problems, I was so excited about buying from her. I felt like I could know her and like her and trust her because she's been in my shoes. I was so excited by it. I couldn't get my credit card out fast enough. So see how the power of storytelling is so important to connect with your audience. Now, it might also be helpful for you to realize that if you can look at your audience as potentially a version of you, a previous version of you, that you've been in their shoes, you've experienced their struggles, but now you've come up with the solution. And if you can paint that picture for them, show them that you've experienced that pain, but now the transformation that you have, you can give them when they sign up for whatever it is that you're offering. And the last question to ask yourself is, how is this campaign different from all of the others? How can you set yourself apart, not just from what everyone else is doing, doing, but from things that you've done in the past before. I'll tell you from my own personal experience, the tactical strategies that I use for campaigns might be the same, but the stories change, or the proprietary mechanisms that I use, the names that I call my strategies change. In the past, I've done campaigns all centered around what I called a massive visibility masterclass, teaching people how to grow their audiences and turn the content that they give their audience into cash flow. Then the next campaign I did was all about an infinite cash flow workshop of how you could create content that makes an impact, and that content creates a relationship with your audience that then turns them into high-ticket customers. See how there's some similarities in there, that it's about creating content that builds a relationship that turns them into paying clients. But see how the names that I called them, the strategies, the stories that I used, that's what changed and was able to bring in a new audience. Now I'm going to share with you a case study of one of my campaigns that was the best campaign I have ever done. It resulted in a 6-figure day. We made over $100,000 in a single day. But before I get into that, I want to remind you, subscribe to this channel because I'm sharing strategies like this every single week that I've used to scale my business to multiple 7 figures. And I've worked with my clients to build their businesses to 6, 7, even 8 figures of revenue. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. In September of 2020, I hosted my first online virtual event called Content Machine Live. But before I even launched or announced the event, I had to reverse engineer my campaign calendar. I knew that I needed about a month to sell tickets, and I wanted another 2 weeks before that to build hype and tease that there was this big announcement coming. Before I could even start that hype, I knew that I needed about another month before that so that my team and I could create all of the assets and the promotions to launch all of that. So knowing that my event was going to start on September 23rd, I reverse engineered a month for the open cart period, 2 weeks for pre-launch, and about a month before that for us to create everything. Now, that's not to say that you need everything created, but we at least wanted to have the biggest promotional materials so that we weren't rushing or working 24 hours a day to try to get this out the door. I knew that while we were in the launch phase, I still needed time to be able to create content for the event, so I didn't want to be hustling or killing myself to get this stuff out the door. So working back to our pre-launch phase, we had these 2 weeks that we were creating a bunch of hype. We were putting out this teaser content that was teasing this big announcement that was coming. This created such curiosity in the audience's mind. It left them with question marks of what is happening. I'm so excited. I need to know. And finally, we announced Content Machine Live, this incredible event that's going to teach you how to build a content machine and a cash flow system to ascend your audience all the way from hello to high ticket. It was at a great price point so that we could help tons of people to be able to grow their businesses, especially knowing how difficult 2020 was. But one thing that's so important to consider is that if you have an open cart period of about a month, the typical purchase behavior is for customers to wait until the last minute to buy. And if we didn't plan ahead for that, we could have had weeks with no one buying where we could think, is this gonna flop? Is this gonna work? I can't even stress to you how stressful that is as an entrepreneur to think, this isn't working. But instead, we were very intentional making sure that didn't happen by inserting elements of urgency and scarcity throughout our campaign to give them reasons like bonuses, early bird prices, FOMO, social proof, more urgency and scarcity all the way throughout that gave us these huge influxes of ticket sales. Now, I actually have a full video on my YouTube channel about how you can promote your event online where I go into this way more in depth. I actually case study almost every single day of this campaign calendar. So I'm going to link that below so you can see that one too. The most important thing about this campaign though is that we created so much hype before we announced, during the announcement, all the way through to the day that the event started. We had people purchasing tickets from day one, even on the day that the event started. And in that video that I mentioned, I give you every single strategy that we use that created such huge hype around this campaign. The biggest thing was the urgency and scarcity and creating FOMO and using the countdown timers to show them that time is running out and spots are closing and you got to get in right now. Now, if you're on the edge of your seat thinking, I just want to go to Content Machine Live, I don't know when the next one will be, it is coming, but in the meantime, I've created a whole blueprint where you can get access to how do you build a content machine and a cash flow system. It's called the Infinite Cash Flow Blueprint. You can click the link below to get access to that for free today.